So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for tonight's OTF Connects presentation of Book Reports No More with Danuta Wolosnowicz. And Danuta, you can tell me if I'm saying that even remotely correctly. And on behalf of Syria Skirhan, who is the facilitator and administrator of the OTF Connects program, we're very grateful, thanks Danuta, that you're giving up some of your own time tonight to further your own learning and bring some new skills, passion, ideas to your classroom and your students. I guess that is the welcome. Syria wasn't able to be with us tonight. She is a member of the board of Science Teachers Association of Ontario, and their conference is taking place right now in Toronto. So that is where she is at. Otherwise, she would be here thanking you herself and thanking Danuta as well for tonight's presentation. So here we have our map of Ontario. So OTF likes to know where our teachers are that are joining the sessions. So we are going to grab that text tool that you just tried and click on the map in approximately the area where you are. I know that there isn't a lot of space down there. And Vera, you'll have to be creative getting Buenos Aires on the map. Usually we have this nice little clip art tool that we use, but it hasn't been functioning too well lately, so we're going to ignore that. If you have problems with that text tool, just go ahead and type it in the chat box. Kapuskasing, wow. I was wondering which one was way up there. Anne, well, I know which Anne this is. Hello, Anne. How are you doing? I think we met at a face-to-face conference a while back. My parents live up in Southampton, not too far from you, and I totally love your River Gorge and the train bridge that goes across. Okay, so if everyone's had a chance to get their town or city in there, I'm going to advance the slide again and hand it over to Danuta. So thank you guys, and if you encounter any technical difficulties, just let me know in the chat, or if your interface freezes, you may need to log out and log back in again. But you can send me an email as well. I've got everything all running at the same time. So over to you, Danuta.
Good evening. I will probably not do a long introduction. I just wanted to echo you, Louise, and thank you for giving up your evening to be with us tonight. Before I begin, I just want to make a remark about how astounded I am every time that we are using this kind of technology, how we can reach, how broad audience we can reach thanks to the development of technology over the last few years. Just to give you an example, we have recently rolled out a new report card tool, and some of you may relate because if you are using PowerTeacher. And what we did, I looked after 41 schools, elementary schools, and I was at the board office. We just did a short webinar, half an hour. I was able to connect to all the schools and then record short tutorials, so there was no face-to-face training, and yet every teacher was trained in that tool. So it's just, as I said, it just absolutely blows my mind that it is possible right now. So just to get to the gist of things, as you could see, you're looking at these two students. What I'm going to start with is perhaps give you a little rationale where this topic is coming from, and why I've decided to select it for today's session. As you can see, I am with Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board, and up until a week ago, I was a technology consultant, and I was very lucky to work with a variety of teachers, various grade levels, elementary, so K to 8, supporting them in the most effective use of technology. I am also on the committee that selects software that is ministry licensed, and many of you may be familiar with OSAPAC. I'm just going to move on and this is the time when people sometimes are wondering, you know, I could be kissing my children good night, just like Vera did, but she's 2 hours ahead. So, but some others may wonder, maybe this is not quite what I thought it would be. So I will quickly just go over the agenda for tonight. And we have just under an hour and a half. So after a short introduction, where I will, as I said, share rationale behind selecting the topic, I will be looking at planning a project. I want it to be very practical. So I will go over planning a project before, however, we create a book trailer, because this will be the focus. We'll be deconstructing movie trailers and book trailers. We'll be looking at some samples, and then finally, if time allows, I will be sharing some other ideas besides book trailers. I do hope that this is going to be an interactive session. I would rather it not be me talking and you just listening, because I know it's not particularly exciting. So I would really appreciate, especially that we have just a lovely small group, that we get some interaction. And please keep in mind, I am not looking at right answers ever. So whenever I'm asking you to listen to something or look at something and then give us some ideas and share ideas, please feel free to share them. And I know with adults, it varies. Sometimes if we were face-to-face, we would do some ice-breaking activities, and I know Louise has done some already at the beginning before we began, but I do hope that you will feel comfortable sharing your ideas. So that's what the evening will look like. Let's move on. So this is the first time that I'm going to ask you for your feedback, and maybe some of you have seen the screen, but I'm referring back to the first slide when you saw these two students board, because they have every year, and if you're teaching intermediate, you may relate that every year they are asked for a book report. And I love reading, and I just love reading for just the enjoyment. And I believe that the book report idea is just taking away from the love of reading. Besides, with so much emphasis on authentic tasks for students, if you're looking at yourself and your own life, when are we asked to create book reports? We read reviews. Some of us submit reviews. We watch or look for other people's opinions. We look at movie trailers, but we don't create book reports. So one reason is authentic task, and certainly an engagement piece. So could we just have a look at this? And I'm going to start with the question about kindergarten. What do you think? And again, please remember, I'm not looking for right answers. What do you think? What percentage of kindergarten students love school? Okay, so thanks so much. I really appreciate you giving your feedback so quickly. Okay, so people are pretty much between, I can see between 75 and 95, I believe. All right, so let's now look at grade 5. Do you think that's preserved, or do you think it drops? Grade 5, what percentage of students are engaged? Okay, so Sandra says it drops. 65, 50. Okay, so remember those numbers. And what happens in grade 9? Okay, so the numbers drop again. All right, so thank you again. So let's look at these numbers. So it's just very disturbing, and I'm sure it's disturbing to you, because as an educator, I'm asking myself, what am I doing or what am I not doing that we're looking at these excited. As I said, I've been working with students from K to 8. And when I go to a kindergarten class, you know, you hear the buzz. The students all love school love the teacher just because she or he is the teacher. Then you go to grade 5, and it's okay. I haven't been in grade 8, 9, but in grade 8, you probably see those faces from my introductory slide when students are coming to school, they are looking down, and they've already experienced failure, and some of them, as you can see, grade 9 is 37%, where only 37% of them left school. So what can we do? I always look at technology as, certainly it's not a magic bullet, but since you are here, I'm sure that you have been using technology in your classroom. You can confirm that technology doesn't directly affect achievement, but indirectly does, because it improves student engagement. So what I also wanted to share with you is, it was just spur of a moment. I was in a grade 7 class working with them, and I said, could you please just answer this question? Do you like book reports? And I realized that, you know, any researcher would just question the validity of this data and say, you know, you've got a small sample, you've got 2 grade 7 classes. But still, I just think this is important information to me. I was actually quite surprised that 61%, and as I said, this was a total of 59 students, that 61% of them said that they don't like, but 39% said, I like writing book reports. So it was actually higher for don't like. I thought it would be, it was lower than I thought it would be. So let's look at another. This one was, I think that it would be more valid, because I was looking, this is a project we did in our board last year, and I'm sure your board has done it as well, because every board has received the special code funding. And so the question at the end that I asked, and this was students from grade 5 and up to high school. And they had 10 Chromebooks in their classroom each day, every day. So they didn't sign out the lab, or they didn't go to a stationary lab. They just basically used those 10 Chromebooks all the time. And this is what they said. When we use technology, I'm more interested in what I'm learning. I'm translating it into I'm more engaged. I like school more. And that was 89% said yes. And then this was also important to me. I'm picking on skills that I can use outside of the classroom. And again, this is extremely important. We just don't learn something for the test, but we learn skills that we can transfer to a real life. And again, 85% confirmed that that's the case. So again, as I said, this is the power of technology. Of course, this was, I always emphasize technology in the right hands and used appropriately. So this is what I'm getting at, and again, I'm getting to the end of the introduction. I already alluded to it in my introduction when I said it's unbelievable how technology allows us to deliver something efficiently and powerfully. So it's no longer I teach with technology because they create a slideshow. But to give you an example of efficient, instead of running to the photocopying machine, putting in a number, photocopying a sheet 25 times, handing it out to all my students, I am going to share it using Google Docs. Again, those of you who are lucky to use Google Docs for education, I just upload it to my account. With 1 click, I share it, well, let's say 2 clicks, I share it with the whole class, and I don't have any problems of, I'm sure you can relate to students saying, well, yeah, you gave me this handout, but I don't know where it is, or it's crumpled in their backpack or in their desk, or, you know, I left it at home, and you are frustrated because now you have to photocopy again. This is shared electronically. The students can use it powerfully. As an example, again, this is not related to the topic, but if you are taking students, and I'm saying taking with quotation marks, you can take students to the most renowned museums and art galleries in the world through Google Arts Project. I'm sure that many of you have heard that. You can take them, actually, they are walking down the individual rooms, standing in front of the pieces of art, and then they can zoom in to the finest details, which they wouldn't even be able to do if they were there in person. And then they can click a link and they can watch a video about an artist or read more about the piece of art. This is an example of powerful. And again, Google Arts Project, if you are not familiar with it, if you're teaching art, is absolutely amazing. So that takes us to the actual planning a project. And I always use a backward design model, which means that I have to start with a goal. So what do I want the students to know at the end? And the goal is determined by, first of all, student needs, and then secondly, by curriculum expectations. Once I have the goal, I have to decide how are they going to show me that they actually understand, and that's the evidence. And then finally, I'm going to plan, decide on performance tasks, what project they are going to complete, and what teaching needs to precede the actual project. So what scaffolding do I have to do prior to setting them free and then asking them to actually create a publish a project. So let's start with the learning goals. So through this project, some teachers sometimes question the length of time that is required and say, you know what, I have such a heavy curriculum, I don't have time to spend a few weeks working on book reports, book trailers. So I'm just showing them how many expectations can be covered through this one project. So again, you've got language expectations are the same 1 through 8. So again, read a variety of texts and demonstrate understanding. Then you're looking at writing, again, generate ideas and for various purposes and audiences. And then finally, we are going to be addressing 2 media expectations. One is looking at techniques that are used by media to create meaning and create media for different purposes and audiences. Okay, so these are the expectations we'll be looking at. And of course, I had to mention 21st century skills, and many of you are familiar with, I especially emphasize creativity. They have to be critical thinking because they are going to be not only critically analyzing media, but they will also be critically looking at their own creation, their own project at various stages of completion. They will be solving problems, they have to make decisions, they will be probably, again, when I supported teachers, they were partner up. 2 students were doing the same book trailer, creating the same book trailer. You can choose whether you have enough computers to make this project an individual one. I always recommend collaborative small groups because it's just this problem-solving idea and collaboration and developing those work habits and learning skills becomes part of the whole experience. So the first thing that I'm going to ask myself is how are they going to demonstrate that they actually reach those goals? So I've decided they are going to create book trailers. So the next question I'm going to be asking is, okay, if they have to create book trailers and they haven't had any prior experience, what skills and knowledge do they need to be successful? And I'm sure many of you can relate if you're assigning a new genre, whether it's poetry, public service announcement, you're asking them to create posters or ads. You can't just say, well, we're going to write poems. You probably are thinking about all the scaffolding that you have to do to make them successful. Otherwise, you will be frustrated with the quality of the final product. So what I've decided to do is, my first thing that they really need to know is they need to be familiar with expository writing. They need to be familiar with the whole world of advertising, which many of them are, but I'm not sure if they're actually thinking about all this when they see an ad on TV or on YouTube or whatever else they are exposed to. So this is the next question to you, and this is what I did in a small group. You can certainly do it if you are using Google Docs for education. I asked them to just work on one document, so they were in groups of 3. again, if you don't have access to technology, at this stage of the game, you can certainly use chart paper and then they can brainstorm. So can I ask you to just interact maybe in the chat? What do you think affects our choice? So if you're choosing a book, students probably would relate to games, but books or movies, how do you choose? Okay, yep, yes, absolutely, pictures. Visuals, yes. The students certainly, especially the younger ones, and actually I used to be a librarian, so I know that sometimes they just looked at the cover. Sometimes they read the synopsis on the back. Advice, absolutely, yes. Yes, links to social justice topics. Oh, what is Sora Vera? Could you just explain the acronym? What is SJBWM? Social justice begins with me. Wow, I'm not familiar with this list. I have to have a look. Thank you for sharing that. I always learn something from any session that I'm running, whether it's face-to-face or online. I will learn a lot. Others have seen or read it. Okay, thank you. That's great. I have to check it out. Don't have certainly games and movies do. That's right. Yes. Okay. So that's pretty much what I saw the students do. They needed maybe a little bit more prompting because you are adults, and it was very easy for you to. Thanks, Louise, for the link. I will certainly check it out. Okay, so we're going to go to a definition of a movie trailer. So again, the students work in groups, and I'm sure most of them are familiar with the concept of a movie trailer. So I asked them to define it. So remember, this is all the scaffolding that is leading towards them creating book trailers. So how would you define a movie trailer? What is it? Okay, short persuasive visual, thank you. Preview of a commercial, key points of the movie, attention grabber, wow, deceptive. Okay, thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate your interaction because I really, as I said, I don't want this to be just me talking at you. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to ask with movies, having some previous experience, I know that playing movies embedded in the presentation doesn't work very well. So I'm going to assume that you all have access to YouTube. So there is a link that Louise is going to paste in the chat. I'm going to ask you to, thanks so much. And could you just watch? You don't have to watch the whole thing. I think it's 5 or 6 minutes long. In about 5 minutes, again, I'm going to be asking you to identify the components. Okay, so let's watch one and come back.
Hi, Danuta. I'm just going to interrupt for a second and let you know that our previous issues with the web tour actually have sorted out quite well. So if you want to try the web tour, we could certainly see how it goes. It's actually been working well. And if anyone has any difficulty, they can click on the link in the chat if they haven't already. Okay, Sandra, the link is right above your name in that chat comment, but I'm going to drop it in up here as well. And you should see it in the whiteboard space now. Hi, everybody. I might have unintentionally ended that web tour. Danuta, did they get to see enough, do you think? it did just sort of end. And Danuta, your microphone is off.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry about that. Again, I hope that I realize it sort of ended, and I apologize. As I said, I just wanted an excerpt of that trailer because I'm sure that even having watched it for just 2 minutes, you'll be able to identify the components. So what do you think the components of a movie trailer are? Okay, key lines for movie. Suspense, tension, okay. Setting, the actors, that's right, yes, soundtrack. Okay, builds the climax. Right, challenges, okay. Right, thank you so much. Great list. Release date, again, we didn't get to the end, so you just, this is based on your own personal experience, which is great. Okay, when we're looking at a soundtrack, is there, other than music, what else could you identify in a soundtrack? Is there anything else? Narration, yeah, that's right, yeah. Just figure one had narration. Quotes. And welcome to Meenakshi, I'm assuming. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. No problem, Meenakshi. Voices and sound effects, certainly, right? Okay, so let's keep on moving, because again, as I said, what I'm doing right now is it's the whole analysis and deconstructing. I would never ask a student to create something, any new genre, or even familiar genre, even something like poetry that we probably asking students to write every year. And every year we are asking them to listen. We are trying to expose them to a number of various poems. We're going over the language of poetry, the figurative language, the features, and especially whether we're creating comic books or comic strips, the same idea. We have to expose them to a lot and do a lot of deconstructing before we ask them to create one. Okay, so that was the one we just watched. So now we are, again, you can choose to watch more than just one. I will be focusing more on book trailers and movie trailers, but I wanted to start with something familiar to the students, and certainly, as I said, movie trailer is something that students have been exposed to many times. So basically it's 2 questions. Could you try and define a book trailer now? And what would be the difference between the two? Okay, written versus visual, less money spent. Exactly. Yes. The creator would have to envision what the author intended to visualize. Soundtrack is in your head. Different target audience. You know, soundtrack, we got it, no problem. Purpose of creation. Okay, so would you say the definition, you said attention grabber before, you said an ad for the movie. Do you think that the definition would change now? What would we say about a book trailer? Purpose of creation. No, exactly. Okay, so the purpose is still encourage the audience to probably buy the book. In many cases, we just we go to a library sometimes, but the bottom line is, yes, to increase the readability of the book. More enticing to an audience. It's more difficult to pull in the reader. That's right, yeah. Than a moviegoer, absolutely, Jeff, good point. Okay, so we have touched on a soundtrack, and now the question is, what role does the sound play in a book trailer? Okay, so again, we have just watched a movie trailer, and you have identified soundtrack, you have identified narration, music. So I'm going to get you to listen now to a sample soundtrack, and what I'm going to ask that you do, please, is to visualize. What do you think is happening on the screen? And also ask yourself the following questions. What could be the genre of this book? And how do you know? What is the tone or mood of the story? What could have been happening on the screen while you just listen to the soundtrack? There will be no narration, just music. And how did the music make you feel? I know it's a lot of questions. However, these questions will be on the screen while I'm going to take off my headset, and I'm going to put it against another computer. So you can bear with me. Sorry, it starts with an ad.
Wait a second. You'll be sorry.
Okay, hopefully you were able to hear it, and we are going to actually watch the trailer in a moment, but what I'm trying to get the students to understand is the function the soundtrack plays, because they are going to choose music, and I don't know if you have had the experience I had, but sometimes when they are adding music to a video, they're creating a video, public service announcement, they are adding a song, and when I'm asking, why did you add this song, they say, because it's my favorite song. So they are it's totally not related to the content, but they just add the song because they like it. So I'm trying to expose them to, again, a few various samples, and I'm going to provide you with those resources to get them to realize how important music is. So let's just go with one question at a time. And I know Jeff identified science fiction. His idea is science fiction. Again, as I said, there's no right or wrong answer. So please don't feel that I'm asking you for a right. I'm saying, what do you think? What could be the genre of this book? And how do you know? Haunting, okay. Someone is exploring ancient ruins of a lost civilization. Okay, so that's what you visualize. So you are going to actually bullet number 3, what could have been happening on the screen. So you can certainly mix your answers and put them in one sentence. Fiction, mystery, okay. Science fiction, a whale song, All right. Okay, could you go to justifying your answer? This is the hard one. Students don't like it when I say, could you justify? How do you know? Or explain how you got that. They don't like it because it's hard. So I realize it's a difficult question. How do you know? If you are saying it's science fiction or mystery, what makes you think so? Horror based on sounds heard, okay. But how do you know, where you heard sounds, how do you know that these sounds belong to science fiction or to mystery or to whatever else, or horror or whatever else you identified? It's based on, okay, echoing, stereotype response, okay. Yes, because they make your skin crawl. Excellent, yes. The sound was slow and confusing, right? Okay, so this is the connection to, we make a connection to our own life. We have experienced something. We have seen probably, we have seen science fiction movies, we have seen horrors, and again, students should be fairly good at it because, I mean, they're exposed to media all the time. They watch a lot of television, so they will probably be giving you those responses because it sounded spooky or because I watched another spooky video, or it's shortly after Halloween, so I remember because it was unpredictable. Okay, so these are the kind of answers that maybe not at this level, because you are level 4, but hopefully you will be receiving this kind of answers. Okay, and now finally I'm going to be just asking, how did the music make you feel? And remember, I'm just going to go back and see who said that it makes your skin crawl. I'm terrified. Okay, spooky, scary, the end of a tunnel. Wow, you guys are amazing with your ideas at 8 o'clock, and you're so alert and participating. What will happen next? Okay, suspense, because you want to know what happens next. All right, so any other comments other than that it's scary and you don't want to go to bed, and that it makes your skin crawl, and any other feelings? You felt suspense, yes, and you felt that you wanted to know what will happen next. Okay, so let's move on. So thank you again. I really appreciate your participation in this one. So we have shared your thoughts, and now we are going to view the actual trailer. So these are the questions that I would like you to think about. Whenever I'm playing something for my students, whether it's a short clip or, sorry about that, I just have to quit my first class. I apologize for that. Whenever I'm asking them to watch a short video, I always give them a purpose, and I always ask, please watch for this. This is what I'm going to be asking you to do after. Whether they are questions about what do you think, or pause and go over vocabulary, or pause and what do you think will happen next. So again, how does the visuals make you feel? Do they align with the text? Because somebody mentioned, I think it was Jeff, one of you mentioned that it's more difficult. It's different with a book because you don't have a video that you can pull parts of. You actually, the author has to decide how the audience or the reader would actually visualize the story. So it's a little bit more challenging. And do the visuals match the music? So I'm going to ask Louise again for help. We can try the video tour again. Maybe it will work, because you're right, it actually works quite well. Oh, what happened now? Disappeared. Do you want to try again, Louise, and see if we can get that?
All right, let me check in with everyone because it ran for me at my end. Can you guys give me a green check mark if you were seeing it? It is working fine. Oh.
I don't see it.
Okay, it may just not be working for you then.
Everybody else is seeing it. Mm.
Okay.
Okay, so you know what? I'm not important because I have seen it. So it really,
Okay.
if everybody can see it, then that's good. Okay, it looks like everyone is back, and so if you feel comfortable addressing one of these questions, do you think that the visuals that the creator of this trailer has selected match the music? What about the text? There's just a little bit of narration, and how do the visuals make you feel? Okay, made you feel scared. Okay, good match. Amount of text to hook me. Intrigues. Works to make the text a lot more frightening. Yeah, that's right. Yes. No, I don't know if this is kind of what you envision when you just listen to the soundtrack. Were you surprised by the visuals, or is it close to how you visualized the trailer when you were just listening to the soundtrack? Anyway, where I'm going with this, and again, I'm trying to speed things up a little bit. I'm getting to the point when we will be analyzing a trailer together. Again, it's the whole still deconstructing piece, and it may take several classes. So what I did, and again, you choose the model that works for you, is I did 2 trailers together as a group. We did it as a class, so we were looking at, once we determined that the purpose of a trailer is to convince you to read the book, how did they do it? What information was there? What was not there? Do you think it really grabbed your attention? And again, explain how. So I'm hoping the students are going to mention the music, the visuals, if there is a narration of any kind, what mood did the visual and sound create together, was the pacing effective again. So all these questions, again, as Louise mentioned, this whole resource I will just take out the first maybe few slides. If you choose to run this project in your class, you will have everything at your disposal, so you'll be able to just perhaps if you're still assigning a book report and you think that you may want to jump in and assign a book trailer instead, you will have this available. So as I said on the next few slides, so this one, and this one, these 3 slides have book trailers that I will not be playing right now. However, the links to them will be available to you. And along, if you would like more, because you may decide, okay, 2 of them we're going to do together, and then maybe 2 of them they will do in small groups. There's a website and there is a YouTube channel, and Louise will provide you with a link. It's called Book Trailers for All, and you will find a whole slew of different book trailers that are appropriate to junior intermediate students, and Louise is very efficient and she's done it already. So again, I strongly recommend this is the area, because if you go to YouTube and just Google book trailers, I have tried it and it just didn't work for me, because I either got book trailers for adults, or there were book trailers that were created by students and they were not of the highest quality. So I just did my research, so you can take advantage of it, absolutely. Okay, so we are now moving on to, again, as you can imagine, I sped through the analyzing, the deconstructing piece, and now we are getting to creating. So it's very important that the students start with identifying the tone of the story. So what kind of a story is it? And again, you probably will have to model it for them because it will be a new experience. Is it a funny one? Is it romantic? Is it dramatic? Is it does it keep you in suspense? Is it scary, like the one that we just watched? So this is important because once you identify it, it will be much easier for you to select music and select pictures, because that's what you have to do to create your trailer, of course, other than the script. And then you have to decide, because you have very limited time. Actually, trailers usually run under 2 minutes. So you have to decide the major plot points and how you're going to introduce the main character and the problem. And certainly you don't want to say, well, the main character of the story is, and he or she has this problem, because that's sometimes what students do in a book report. Have you, in any of the trailers you watched, this is what you can ask them, did you ever hear this kind of a introduction of a character? The main character is, and this is the problem. So we need to do a lot of scaffolding, so this is what I'm trying to do. Now you are going to brainstorm words that would probably help you at the end, because you really want to, this, as one of you mentioned, it's an attention grabber. So how are you going to really excite the audience, and they will say, wow, that looks like a great book, I better go and look for it because it's going to be in stores near you within the next couple of weeks. And students, as you probably can relate, will describe it as, oh, it's a good book, it's interesting, it's cool, it's fun. Okay, can we exaggerate? Can we use different words? And you can even bring some books from the library and get them to look at the back cover and various reviews from reputable sources. So, for example, School Library Journal reviews or New York Times reviews. There's all these that look, they use all this, I always call them colorful, descriptive words. Remember to use the thesaurus as well. And then end the trailer with a cliffhanger, and a question is very effective. And then again, a reminder, you only have up to 2 minutes to convince the audience to read the book. So you have to do it really effectively. And just wanted to remind the students of the creative process. Probably you are familiar with this process from the arts curriculum. And what's important is the center. Just wanted to grab that hand and just point here to the feedback piece. As you can see, those arrows are going both ways at every stage of the creation process. So we are not providing students with feedback when they finish, because they're going to be very frustrated saying, oh, now I have to go all the way back to rewrite my script. No, they're going to generate those ideas at the beginning I mentioned. They are then going to write a script. We are going to provide them with feedback. We are going to ask peers for feedback. We're going to ask them to look at it critically and decide if this is going to be an attention grabber. Then they are going to go to the next step. They're going to revise. They are going to again ask for feedback. They're going to collect pictures, music, again ask for feedback. So it's just a circular process. They may need to do the revisions, complete revisions a few times. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of the hand, move on. Okay, so these are the steps. So they are going to start with the draft, and this is, I know students are they're going to be very eager and anxious to go on a computer. What I always suggest, and this is based on my experience that I've worked with many classes, and basically using technology, I don't want it to sound negative, but as a carrot. You're going to say, you know what, you're going to have to first have your script finished. Once your script is finished, once you've got feedback from me or your peers or whatever system you use in your class or both, and once they act on the suggestions for improvement, this is when they're going to create a storyboard. And yes, there are tools on a computer they can use for storyboarding. Again, I would just use a simple 8.5 by 11. I always fold it to have 3 and 3, fold it twice, fold it once over, and then I have 6 boxes. If I need more than 6, they would use the other page. Very simple, where you will just ask them to sketch, stick figures of the picture and then break the script into individual scenes. Then it's very important to encourage them to, again, depending on where you're asking them to save, please remember, ask them to open one folder. In this one folder, they will be storing all the music and pictures. What, again, Louise will be posting is a link to a website that I have found very helpful. It's instrumental music, copyright-free, for video and film, and students can search for the soundtrack there. It may take a little while, but at least you know they are using copyright-free resources. And I believe Louise mentioned there was another session, maybe some of you attended, on copyright-free resources, pictures, and just basically copyright-free media, and there will be additional resources, I'm sure. I'm just going to look at this presentation. Where do we find? Missing the link, I will grab. Okay, no problem. Can I cut and paste? Not sure what the question is. If I want to make an instruction sheet. Oh, okay. I know what you refer. It's going to be a PowerPoint. Okay, so if it's a PowerPoint, you're going to be able to copy and paste from individual slides and create instructions for your students. I'm assuming that this is what you are asking. Okay, so that explains it. Again, please feel free to ask. You will have my contact information at the end, so if you need any specific handouts, I'll be happy to share them. And then finally, so it's not until number 5 that they are going to work on the computer. By then, the script is done, the storyboard is done, they are just gathering resources, and then finally creating the trailer. They create the trailer again, the feedback, the revising, and then the celebration and the Oscar nominations, I guess. So again, I'm trying to provide them with some samples. They haven't had any previous experience, so they need to know, okay, what exactly do you mean by a script? So I am providing a list of scaffolding questions. Again, I'm emphasizing, please do not answer these questions. And I have seen it done. That's why I've done capital letters for do not, because they are going to say, the story take place in a big city. The main character is, and she has a problem. And her goal is to, but she can't do it because something gets in her way. And then it's just, this is what exactly what is going to happen. So on the next slide, you are going to see a sample script. So this is where I'm answering those questions, but this is what it could sound like. In a small village of Everett, a local dentist fights for custody of his son. Their luck is not on his side. Judge grants his unstable ex-wife custody instead. How could the judge be so blind? I'll let you read the rest. Okay, so the second from the bottom bullet ends with a question. This is what I am suggesting, because a question is a very effective cliffhanger. And then the words that they brainstormed describing the story. Here are some examples. Unforgettable story of love, rejection, and tenacity filled with skillfully woven twists and turns. Of course, I don't expect, maybe you're level 4s, or if you're teaching grade 8 and you have a lot of grade writers, you may be getting rich language, but it doesn't have to be to that extent. But I just wanted to show them a sample of what it might look like so that they don't answer those questions that I had on a previous slide. I'm going to pause for a moment because I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. And I am talking and I cannot follow the chat. I know Louise is fantastic helping me out, and she's answering all these questions. Okay, so thank you so much, Vera. I hope you will find it helpful, and my goal is to excite you to try and see if this idea will work for you. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm just going to move along.
Danuta, I'm just going to jump in for 1 second to address Sandra. I can see that Sandra is typing a comment Sandra, I think I realized a little while ago that you might not be seeing all the chat comments going by, and I posted a helpful tip for you, but of course it's in the chat. And if you click on the little triangle that's just to the left of the word chat in your chat box, have you already done that to expand your chat box so you can see all the comments? If you haven't done so yet, that will solve that problem. Oh, perfect. All right, thanks. Back to you, Danuta.
Thank you, Louise. I didn't realize that Sandra was having difficulty. Okay, and finally some advice, reminding them of the purpose. Okay, media, when we talk in creating media, we're always looking at what is the purpose, who is the audience, and the form we are going to use. So we are using a book trailer. Who will be the audience for your book trailer? If you are the author of the book and you are creating, maybe you are the agency that has been hired to create a book trailer. Who will be the audience depending on the type of the book, if it's for teenagers, adolescents, small children, adults. And remember that you have under 2 minutes, so there's no time to waste. You have to grab their attention from the very first second of the trailer. No need for full sentences. Remember, this is an extremely important piece to remind students of the size of the pictures. They are usually saving small images or even thumbnails, and then they blow them up to full screen, and they are very disappointed because the image is blurry. So reminding them to look for, ideally, this is the minimal. I always say 4 digits by 4 digits, so this is pixels, would be an ideal size because you are guaranteed to have good quality when you play them full screen. And again, remember the music, remember what we did. Does the music match? If you have narration, the music cannot be too loud to hear the narration. And does it go with the mood? And of course, never give away the ending. So this is another tip sheet that you can provide your students with. Okay, and of course everybody always asks, what is the rubric? So Louise told me they are probably going to be asking for the rubric. So this will be part of the package. You won't be able to edit, but if you don't quite like this idea, you can certainly use at least maybe some criteria to create your own. Okay, so what I wanted to do now, and I'll ask Louise in a moment, I wanted to show you, and I always believe it's extremely important that students see a finished product using the tool they will be using. And in a moment, if you've used Animoto before, I apologize. I just find it an extremely useful tool for this particular purpose for any type of short media. So if you're thinking creating public service announcements or ads of any kind, or specifically expository writing focusing on book trailers, it's a perfect tool. Now I'm going to talk more about why I am absolutely against starting with a tool. So if teachers say, well, I would like them to use, for example, BitStrips for schools, when I'm asking why, well, I just heard it's a cool tool. Well, when I'm using a tool, there's usually a reason for it, and I will justify my selection of Animoto in a moment. What I want to do, and this is what I suggest if possible, is showing students a finished product. This is not a level 4, this is not the best one that I could share with you, but I thought I would just show you what's possible when you provide all the scaffolding, when you start with deconstructing, when you take students through the steps. And again, this was, I think there were 2 students working together. I don't know, I don't remember if it was just one. Maybe there will be his name, I think, will be at the end. But anyway, if I can ask Louise to paste, either paste the link or use a web tour. Okay, it's flickered for me.
Yep, you should be able to click the play button in the center of the screen yourself on this one.
Again, I have widescreen, but it doesn't matter as long as everyone else can see it. And again, please don't watch the whole thing because it's longer than I actually asked them to do. So just a little bit will give you an idea. Okay, so as I said, if possible, if we could come back, because I'm just looking at the time and I have just 20 minutes left. So I wanted to make sure that I take you through the steps of creating an account, because there is an important step that you need to be aware of. So coming back to why I chose Animoto as a tool. There's two main reasons. One is, you mentioned it's impressive. Well, it's impressive because Animoto does everything behind the scenes. Students, again, if you can relate, especially if you're using slideshows of any kind, they will put as many transitions, as many there are slides. So that's one problem that I have. And then they will get letters to jump and fly, and there'll be flames and you name it, only because they think that's what's going to make their final product more exciting. And of course, they don't realize it's actually distracting and they are supposed to be consistent. So don't make the letters fly unless you can justify why they are flying. So I'm always asking, why are these letters jumping in? I don't know, it's just cool. Okay, if it's just cool, then you're going to just let the text be on the slide. So Animoto does everything behind the scenes. You have no control over. So when you said it's impressive, it looks very sophisticated, but you have no control over. All you control is the order of text and images, and of course the selection of music. That's all you do. You can control how long a particular slide, so if you have longer text, but there's also a limit of how much text you can put. But you can spotlight individual images or individual slides with text. And then you get this product that you have just seen. So it's just students, especially when you're showing it to parents, they're saying, wow, you know, that's really high quality and high-end stuff, and it really isn't, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So that's one reason that the students are not wasting time on cool fluff. I call it fluff because they can do it forever and ever, but they focus on the content. And secondly, because it's an online tool, if students, for different reasons, either they are away or they are wasting too much time looking for appropriate pictures or any other reasons why they are behind, I'm going to say, you know what, I think you need to spend some time at home. And they probably don't mind, because you're not asking them to, at this point, write an essay. You're asking them to work on their presentation on the book trailer, which is very exciting. So they don't mind, and they don't have to wait until the next school day. They can just go home and work on it at home. So these are the two reasons. And then when they, actually there is a third reason, when they finish, they have a link to the trailer, which they can share with their family. They can share with their grandma, who may be overseas even, whoever they want to send a link to this trailer. Everybody will see it. So it's not going to be something that, okay, I've done it for my teacher, she or he evaluated, my audience is what, one person. Now the audience can be anyone that you choose to send a link to this trailer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through the steps. I'm just going to show you here in case you miss something or you are sharing this idea with your colleague and they say, oh, you know what, I would like to actually do the same thing. And as I said, there are many other projects you can run using Animoto, not just book trailers. And then you just create the account now and you want to show someone else. It's just not intuitive. That's why I'm providing you here with steps how to do it. So this slideshow, that you will see posted in the resources area will have those steps. So what I'm suggesting, if you don't mind, go to, as I said, let's go back here to this website, and I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to take you through the steps of creating, thank you, Louise, creating an account, because the very important step is to create an educator account. If you create just a free one, it will only give you 30 seconds of any type of this kind of media that you saw. And if you want it, I believe it's 5 minutes, you need to create an educator account. And one thing that you need to keep in mind, if we go through all the steps right now together, you are going to end up with a code, which I strongly recommend that you do a screenshot of, or copy and paste into Word, so that you need to share this code with your students, so when they create an account, and I will show you at which point they're going to be asked for it, they will actually be prompted to enter the code, and this will give them 5 minutes as opposed to 30 seconds. So I'm just going to go to screen sharing. Thank you for your patience. I hope that it will actually stop spinning and actually go to my browser. In the meantime, you are probably entering the URL or you probably clicked the URL that Louise kindly provided you with. Okay, I'm going to click back on the whiteboard and try again. Maybe it's just stubborn and doesn't want to go. I was hoping I would take you through the steps. You actually don't have to wait. If you could just go to sign up, I believe in the top right corner, enter some information, choose a username and password, if I recall. Still spinning. Oh, not good. Well, I may have to...
There's another way you can go into the application sharing. Maybe we should try that too. Switch back to the whiteboard.
Okay.
And go up to Tools in the menu. And the first item is Application Sharing, and then start sharing there and see if it's just our button pathway that's not functioning well.
It's application sharing, and it's just send key. I don't have start sharing here.
When you go up to the Tools menu?
Yeah, I have application sharing and takes me over to the right to send key.
Oh, so something.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, let me double check this for a second. Oh, okay. All right, try again. Either way. I think application sharing is disabled for you, which is unusual.
Okay.
All right, we're all good now.
Okay. Okay. So can you see my Animoto screen?